Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Addiction Solutions with Roselle. I hope that you're all doing well, and we're going to get in. This is our fourth episode, and before we get started, I want to get some housekeeping chores out of the way. Now, for people that are just joining in, you can go to YouTube and type in Addiction Solutions with Roselle, and it will bring up all of the videos, including this one. Be sure to subscribe. It costs nothing to subscribe to the videos. Be sure to tell family and friends that there's no charge. They're subscribing to get this information regarding addiction. Also, be sure to take a look at my two books, 366 Days, 365 Days of Recovery. These were my first 2 years in recovery. So you can go to my Facebook page and type in information stating that you want the book. And the reason I'm doing it like this is so I can autograph the book. That way you will have an autographed signed copy from the author. So last week, we talked a little bit about experimentation. At least we talked a lot about experimentation. And so I have a phase chart, which is really, I call it stop signs, phase charts. These are things that people with addictions, first they experiment, not knowing that they're addicted. And secondly, they start to running into problems that should be stop signs, but in a lot of cases, they're not. And so what happens is they run through it. And so now, once you realize that you are addicted, you have to go back through these problems with none of the things that had you addicted. Now, does that make sense? Okay, so the next thing on the phase chart is legal problems. Now, for every addiction, the legal problems are different. We're going to talk about alcohol, which everybody knows. That's associated with DUIs. And so DUIs are driving while under the influence. And so these are individuals that get caught driving by the police. They're doing something erratic while they're driving. And so they get caught. They do maybe a breathalyzer, some type of test. But anyway, they're arrested and they're taken into custody. So with a DWI and a DUI, driving under the influence and driving while under the influence, similar, but not exactly, so we will define it a little more. But nevertheless, it involves drinking. So we experimented with alcohol, don't think we have an alcohol problem. And so now we're driving a vehicle. Might just left the club, the bar, a party, a wedding, or whatever. So now we're arrested. We hire an attorney. Nothing against the legal profession, but this is expensive. So you hire an attorney, you go to court. If it's your first offense, you've never been in trouble, usually it's a fine, and you might have to maybe go to some classes. It depends on, what the situation was. So this is alcohol. Now, as a therapist, I had numerous people in my groups that were arrested for this. Some multiple times, some to the point where they were arrested and had to stay in jail and were released to go to work and then had to come back to jail once they got off work. And when they got back, they took breathalyzers to make sure they didn't drink. Do you know how much money that cost? You got to pay an attorney. You got to pay court costs. You got to pay to stay in jail. You got to pay to stay in jail. Now, is this enough to convince an individual they have a drinking problem? So, in the groups, people would argue, they scream, "I'm not an alcoholic. There's nothing wrong with me. You know, I got a home, I got a family, I got this. Why do you keep getting caught driving under the influence? If you're not an alcoholic, I suggest you do this. Go buy your alcohol, whatever it is. Go down in your basement, chain yourself to a pole, and just sit there and drink. But don't get behind the wheel of a car, because if you do, you're subject to get arrested. I mean, some people had 3 and 4 DUIs. Did they take their driver's license? The legal system. Money talks, we know that, money. And if you're able to pay your way out, usually, you know, society wants to see you continue working. They don't want to see you locked up. So people are able to get away. Okay, so this is a stop sign though, especially if it's 2 or 3 times. This is letting you know, hey, maybe I have a problem. But unfortunately, I've had parents call me and say, Roselle, so-and-so is dead. Yeah, they had an accident, they were drunk, crashed into a tree. And I would try to attend the wake, you know, and the family would tell me, give me my accolades. But hey, you know, there was nothing I could do. The individual had the information, and it was up to them, you know, to decide if they wanted to, you know, stop drinking. Now, we get into gambling. And gambling, the legal aspects of gambling has something to do with bad checks, credit card fraud. You can be arrested and seriously charged with check cashing, you know, when you have, you know, fraudulent checks, you know, bad checks, you know, that you're trying to write so you can keep gambling. So there's a legal aspect to gambling. And so what we're trying to bring out here is not to make people afraid or scared. We're trying to say this is a stop sign. When you get arrested for writing a bad check, you know, you have to do, you have to reimburse the casino or wherever you wrote the bad check. Then there's some other fees and fines that go along with that. Now, is that enough to stop a person from gambling? The answer is, I don't think so. So what we're going to do today, we're going to leave off with gambling. And when I come back for our next show, we're going to continue with legal problems, and we're going to get into a couple of other addictions that has legal issues associated with them. So what I'm going to do is I want all of you out there to be blessed. Turn into the video. I appreciate all the people that have viewed, and I look forward to seeing you all next week on Addiction Solutions with Roselle.